yo, you have carpentry experience, you'd be perfect. Come help us build this dream house.
Welcome to the Freedom Real Estate Podcast with your boy Andrew, and I am excited and ecstatic to have John Marchese here. John's an absolute killer. He's been in the construction business for upwards of 20 years. He's a world traveler. He does developments. He owns probably a couple hundred units at this point. I don't know, I lost count. He's crushing it, so we're excited to learn his story. How you doing today, John?
Doing real good. Thank you for having me.
Amazing.
It's exciting.
So, John, you're a unique character, right? Because when it comes to financial freedom, we all imagine traveling the world, enjoying life, having fun, right? But you did the opposite. You essentially traveled the world broke for the first 10 years, and then you decided to go to financial freedom. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, like a little gypsy. That's absolutely what happened, and I'm actually glad I did it that way. I spent the better part of my 20s traveling the world.
Okay.
There's a little backstory to that. I have a degree in anthropology and sociology from Plymouth State University.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Please educate our audience.
My closest friend's mother calls it underwater basket weaving, meaning it's a major that really doesn't apply in today's world, but it's something that I loved. And anthropology and sociology is like the study of the human species, why the way we are based on our environment. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, but it was very interesting. And I love people, and I love to learn about why people are the way they are. So that's why I took it as a major.
Wait. So, in a sense, it's very much psychology.
It's part of it's psychology. It's a social science. Yeah, for sure.
So you just like studying the human being and how to interact with them and how to work with them, and
and why they are the way they are based on their environment, like where you've grown up, the factors that make you who you are. It just was interesting to me. So the reason I traveled the world is because when you're studying anthropology and sociology, it's a lot of different cultures you learn about all around the world. So I read books and watched videos through college.
Yep.
And when I graduated, I wanted to go and see the world for myself. I grew up in a small town, Littleton, Mass.
Yeah.
All-American town. So I didn't have a lot of diversity. And then I went to college at Plymouth State University, which is in the White Mountains, New Hampshire. So there's even less diversity.
Yeah.
And now here I am learning about the big picture in the world. And I took the opportunity right after college to go explore and see for myself what was going on out there.
Okay. So after college, where'd you go?
Oh, good question. I bought a one-way ticket to Spain.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the show. Forget what it's called. Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations.
Oh, I love that show.
Anthony Bourdain was like one of my heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Sad story in the end there, but he had the coolest job. He just traveled all over the world, ate and drank with all these local people, got to see life behind the scenes. So I was watching a lot of that in the end of college, and I was like, I want to go do that. And he was in Spain in one episode. I'm like, hey, Spain looks cool.
Okay.
So I bought a one-way ticket to Spain.
And you just did that, and then how long were you traveling?
I was gone on that trip for like a year and a half. I lived in Spain for 4 to 6 months, and then I lived on a Greek island for a summer, probably about 6 to 8 months there. And then I stopped in Italy on my way home. And about a year and a half later, I came home. I bought a one-way ticket. I didn't know if I was going for 2 weeks or 2 months. And I ended up staying overseas for a year and a half.
Wow.
Right after college, basically.
Wow. And then you came back, and is that when you became a carpenter and you started the business?
No. My story is convoluted, and I'll try to keep it brief. But I grew up as a carpenter. My father owned a remodeling company my entire life. So I grew up in his work boots. I was standing in his work boots. I have a picture of me at 2 years old standing in his work boots. But that's basically, honestly, where I got involved. So my entire life, I grew up. My father was self-employed, a contractor, hands-on. He didn't just run a big business. He was a carpenter that had a few guys working for him. So instead of, like, throughout high school and college, instead of working at a grocery store or wherever people would work, I would just go to work for him. And bang nails and be on roofs and do whatever.
So you were exposed to real estate really, really early.
Yes, but I didn't consider it real estate. For me, that was just construction, but it's a massive part of real estate and why I am how I am today in relationship to my real estate career.
Okay. So you grew up learning carpentry, you grew up around the contractor world, and then you wanted to experience the world, see different cultures, kind of put what you learned to practice, I guess, right? At school.
Yeah.
And then what happened? How did you eventually start? You started your own business, right? As you started your own construction business at one point, right? And that how you really got started
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
entrepreneurship?
So that was only the tip of the
Oh,
iceberg in
that's
my early 20s of traveling. But what I learned too when I was traveling is, like, for example, I worked at a holistic resort and I was just on websites trying to find opportunities and bob around. But one of the first stops I made in Spain was building a couple's dream house in the Abuhara mountain range, which is a very rural place, like traditional villages. And they're like, "Oh, you have carpentry experience? You'd be perfect. Come help us build this dream house." So my experience as a carpenter and my skills actually allowed me to travel and like volunteer using those skills and give back to a lot of people in a lot of ways, which I had no idea like how valuable those skills were. And being able to piggyback on that and travel using that was awesome, because I went from Spain to doing that to then working in the holistic resort. They're like, "Oh, I was going there to be like a prep chef because I didn't care
okay.
a prep chef. You just cut
Yeah, yeah,
vegetables or
yeah,
whatever. I don't know what a prep chef does, but I was like, however I can get there, I'll go."
yeah, yeah.
And then they realized, "Oh, you have carpentry skills. You should be the maintenance guy." So they ended up making me the maintenance guy at that resort, and so on and so forth. So I basically, throughout my 20s, for over a decade, I traveled and I used my my experience, my expertise in that industry to just allow me to, it was more volunteer work. I really wasn't getting paid anywhere, but it carried me throughout and I became a valuable asset to these people in these places and just was able to help them using carpentry. So then one of my last stints, like overseas, like I was living in Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Now my ex-wife is Malaysian, and this was when we were dating, and she and I met in Lowell. And after a year, she was in grad school. I was selling insurance, and I was like, I don't really want to be here. I want to go see how the other half lived. I lived in Europe, in the Caribbean, in
Yeah.
Australia, and all over, like a lot of
Wow.
Western cultures. But she was from a world that I knew nothing about, the
Yeah.
Asian world. I had not a lot of experience studying or traveling to.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Malaysia at like 27, and when I was there I ended up getting a job doing business development for a software company called ClickView, and I was building this guy's small business development is like a fancy word for sales, but they were putting me in front of big corporations. I was meeting with boards, in front of boards with insurance companies and banks. And basically, because I was white and American, they used me as the face of their company. So I would go and try to sell the software for them to analyze data on a very high level. And I realized that I'm building out some other guy's company. And at that same time, my father back at home,
Okay.
like after 20 years of doing carpentry, he was like, "I'm going to buy a business called Kitchens by Lomco."
Yep.
And instead of just being a general contractor, he was going to own an actual location, sell cabins, do the design aspect. He's like, "You can come back and help me build this business out and it can be yours." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds good. But I don't want to come home and be a carpenter again." I had bad knees. I was just tired of banging
Yeah,
nails.
yeah.
I felt like I had a bigger purpose. I love it. I love building. I love construction. I love every
Sure.
facet of it. But I didn't want to get stuck in banging nails all day long. I was always thinking about the bigger picture.
I see.
So I came back, and he had just bought in that company, and it was so primitive. I was like, "Okay, let's go market and get some jobs." He's like, "Okay, do it." So I go online. I'm like, "We don't have a website." Okay, got to build a website. We didn't have a logo. I'm like, we got to start from square one. So I basically built that business up from nothing and reinvented the wheel the entire time, which was sad. I didn't really have like a business mentor or some experience on building business other than quickly working in Malaysia for that other company. So I took what I learned there, and then I basically started everything from scratch and started building that business up. And that business I owned with him for over a decade, and I still work with him on a higher level consulting for it now. But that was cool, because then I built that business out. It was a construction business. We remodeled for residential clients. We did anywhere from 25 to 50 projects a year, and these are like high-end $100,000 kitchens, bathrooms, entire house additions, you name it, entire house remodels. And him and I, side by side, built that business out, where now we have project managers and carpenters, designers, everything you can imagine. And I love it. And it's like I called it my whiny tiny baby. Like, it was always needing coddling and taken care of, because once you have employees, you work for them essentially as a business.
Totally.
You always have to make sure you have work for them.
But it sounds like, I mean, that business was successful, and it sounds like to me you very much through your discovery of traveling the world, you very much took the best practices of what you learned along the way and kind of implemented it in this business, right? Because when you first did it, carpentry came from a point of love, came from a point of making something beautiful, and it sounds like you took that perspective with creating this company with your clients.
Yeah, and I mean, I learned everything from the ground up, and how to build a business, how to manage client expectations, how to manage employees, everything, like everything. So that was my first business that I had built, and I'm still involved with it, and it's still very successful and runs on a regular basis today.
Wow. Wow. So that was your first experience growing a business. So, then you got your taste of entrepreneurship. When did you actually find real estate as a valuable vehicle? Did you end up finding Rich Dad Poor Dad? Like, what got you inspired into that sort of realm? Because
did you find Rich Dad Poor Dad? That's everyone's question, because that's the catalyst for when people jump into real estate or get the taste for it or understanding.
Yeah.
So back to Malaysia is where I came across the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and read it cover to cover multiple times. Like, this is cool. Like, there's another avenue out there for people that don't like the traditional W-2 path, and or like school and traditional education and all that. And that is so me. Like, I did not fit into the conformity of what society pushes us in now. Yeah. So I was in Malaysia doing this business development, read that book. But the fascinating thing about Malaysia and Asia in general is it's a part of the world that's newly developed in itself. Like, I was there and I was watching buildings come up out of the ground, and we're from the United States. It's pretty much been heavily developed, and we live in the first world country. There it was like literally coming out of the ground. It's a second world nation, and it was being built up so fast over the last 30 years. I mean, Malaysia 30 years ago was a swamp, and now it has some of the craziest architecture you could imagine all across Asia. Like, you just look it up, it's incredible. But what I was seeing there was money. I was seeing new money, and new money is different than old money.
Yep.
Asia has new money, and new money means like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, cars, like cash, stacks of cash. Like, when they come across money, they show it off. And I, coming from New England, a small town, like, I knew people that did well and understood money. Well, I thought I did. But here in New England, I'd say it's more old money, and people like could be driving a Prius and you wouldn't know that they're a multimillionaire or a billionaire, because they play it down. But there, they played it up, and I was like, holy shit, this is what money can buy. Like, this is crazy. And so between starting business development there, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and seeing what money could buy, I'm like, ooh, I want to figure out how to make money and be well off. Not because I want to be fancy, but I was like, money just gives you options.
Totally. But I think at the same time, you realize the difference between an asset and a liability too, right?
Yeah, I had no idea what an asset and a liability was until I read that one page on Rich Dad Poor Dad that has the diagram, and it says, okay, a liability takes money out of your pocket, and an asset puts money into your pocket.
Yep.
And I love how simple that is.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And I don't think people realize, like, life creep's real. Right. And, you could achieve financial freedom, but if life creep catches up with you, your financial freedom can disappear just like that, because your expenses exceed your revenue. Right.
Yeah, that's a fine line. And I think about that all the time, because I've had that happen to me as well. But for example, I know people in my life right now that do very well, like, high paid attorneys, like, top of their game. And I call it the golden handcuffs, because they make hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year in salary, but they live to their means. They buy the nicest things, and they don't save, they don't invest for the most part. And it's sad, because they make so much money, but they live to their means, meaning they spend that much money.
Absolutely. They give half away to Uncle Sam, right? In the form of probably 40%. And then at the other point, they literally just spend it to cover up the pain of having to work 70 hours a week and having no life.
That's a huge part. Like, they make really good money, but like those handcuffs are to their desk.
If you're making that sort of money, you're in call 24/7. No ifs, ands, or buts.
It's glorified slavery.
It is. It's glorified slavery, right? And like, ultimately, I would prefer making less money and have financial freedom. Right? Like, I'd rather drive a Honda and have a choice what I do every day than drive a Mercedes and have to be forced to work, 12-hour days.
Agreed.
right?
Yeah, agreed. But I like driving nice things and having
Yeah,
freedom at the same time.
exactly.
So you got to work that.
Totally. And that's why it's all about being an entrepreneur. It's all about buying assets and getting out of your trading your time for money. Right? I think that's the grind that book opened my eyes to, because I was always trading my time for money, and I realized for me to get out of the rat race, for me to escape the matrix, I got to get out of this equation.
Time is the most precious thing,
Yeah.
and no amount of money can buy back time. So I think it's really important the sooner you learn that and realize that and figure out a way to prevent yourself from stealing all your time for money, then the better off you are. So read that book and listen to podcasts like this and do anything you can to educate yourself on how to get away from the rat race.
It is, yeah. I mean, because ultimately, you and I have achieved some level of financial freedom. We at least have more control of our time,
Yeah.
and it's liberating to say the least, right? And it comes with its challenges for sure, but ultimately, being my own boss is the best reward I could possibly make, more than having any money, right?
Yeah, and I think time and money, it's a tight balance. And for me, I don't know, like financial freedom is one thing. Like once you achieve financial freedom, that basically means you don't have to go to work every day, and
Totally.
your passive income, is
Exactly.
generating enough to cover your life expenses. But we're still very young and very hungry and have a lot of energy. So
Yep.
for me, it's about having options and being able to choose what I do with my time every day. Like I'm so addicted to real estate and
Mm-hmm.
now development,
Totally.
and I have a passion for it. So I just like that I have a choice in what I do and how I direct my energy.
Absolutely. Choice, right? You're 100% right. So, you started this company, you had some success, I would assume.
Yeah.
Did you realize once you started paying Uncle Sam and seeing how much money went to him, you're like, oh, maybe it makes sense to buy some real estate? Or what was the transition from owning a construction company to buying real estate? Or did you
Yeah.
always own
So
real estate?
no, 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 no. So it wasn't even like that thought process for me. It was two things. And I just want to remember both things. So one is I lived through the Great Recession, 2008. I was graduating. I went to college. They're like, the world's your oyster. You can
Mm.
do anything you want. You're going to have a white collar job because you have a college degree. And I saw my other closest friends, his family owned a construction company. I saw them lose everything in the Great Recession
Okay.
because their construction jobs stopped. They worked for clients. Everyone stopped doing everything. No one had money to spend. So I saw them lose everything. They had just built a beautiful house on a hill, and I actually helped them build it, and they could no longer afford that mortgage because their company stopped.
Oh,
So
wow.
that scared me into always wanting multiple streams of income. I never wanted to just count on one paycheck, and whether it was a paycheck from a company that I owned or a paycheck from a W-2 job, I didn't feel safe having that. So I had this fear built into me from how old was I when I graduated college? From 21 years old to saying I need to have multiple streams of income because if one ever stops, I want to make sure that I can still continue to live at the level of the
Okay.
lifestyle I live at.
So what was that first deal then?
So hold on. So that was answer one, and it's
Okay.
actually a two-part answer. The second part is when I was doing construction stuff, I loved that company and we paid ourselves a good salary and I could live comfortably on that. It's a choice for me to branch off and do harder, more challenging things. But the other part of that was like, and I loved all my clients. They were such good people. And by the time we were done with jobs, we were like getting invited back over for dinner and this
Yeah.
new kitchen's remodeled. However, like I didn't want to work for clients anymore. I knew how to do construction to the best that anyone can do it, but I didn't want to have to educate clients and sell jobs anymore because every time somebody did a kitchen remodel, they needed to be taken through all the steps and feel
Yeah, yeah.
comfortable with us and like, what's going on with my kitchen knob? And they're texting me at 7 o'clock at night. And I'm like, that wasn't for me anymore, managing client expectations and educating people on how their remodel's going and just to trust us and do it. So I knew I was an expert at construction, but I just wanted to do it for myself at that point. And that's what kind of got me going into real estate. Like, I'm just going to buy my own property, own it. I know how to do the construction.
Yep.
The choices are minimal. And then I not only did a beautiful job in this construction and brought value that way, but then I owned the asset that I just reconstructed. So
You wanted
that's what we did.
control, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted control, and I wanted to spend less time educating, more time just doing the work.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was part of it. So I know you had asked, how did I get involved with real estate? It wasn't that simple. I was building my business out, Kitchens by
What
Lomco,
year was this?
2017. So
Okay.
I had been building Kitchens by Lomco for 4 years at that point. And in 2017, I was like looking for properties to get involved in. I bought a two family.
Okay.
And I did the classic
And where
house
where
hack.
was this?
Littleton, Massachusetts,
Okay.
the town I grew up in.
Okay. So you knew it well.
I knew it very well. And the funny thing is most people that I grew up with had started to move out to Western Mass because they couldn't even afford to live in that town anymore.
Wow.
The property value had skyrocketed. It was just tough to,
Yeah.
deal with a traditional mortgage. So I bought a two family.
Yep.
I fixed it up. I lived in the unit that I fixed up on the second floor, and it was a
Okay.
beautiful unit. And I rented the first floor unit, and the first floor unit rent covered the majority of my mortgage.
So you did a house hack.
Did a house hack.
Wow. Did you know what a house hack was?
No,
When you...
that wasn't even a term when I
Wow.
started. Like this term came out, since then, and I was like, I just house hacked.
And it was sounds like a cosmetic upgrade more or less.
Yeah. This is an old house from the 1700s, so
Okay.
it was like there wasn't a straight line in this house, and there was a lot of work to be done. But I just did it nights and weekends
Okay.
on top of my building my business during the day, standing there with a paintbrush.
So it was just cosmetic. Was there foundation work?
There was everything. Like I did a little bit of everything, but because I knew how to do it, I could do it at my cost. I would just pay for materials, and I would be
Yeah,
the labor,
okay.
and I had the time and the energy to do it at that point. And this thing ended up being like I preached this to so many people because this was such a win, and I can tell you why.
Okay.
So ended up renting this out. Now I'm living upstairs. I'm building my business, and I'm saving all my income from my business because I don't have to pay for the biggest expense most people have in their
Wow.
life, which is their mortgage after
Totally.
taxes. So that allowed me to save a lot of money. And at the same time, this was what we now call the burst strategy. But
Yep.
I had, after a year living there, went back to the bank and said, hey, can I get a HELOC on this property? They come out, they do their appraisal. They're like, yeah, here's $91,000. After
Wow.
1 year of owning this.
Wow. And
They-
how much did you put down?
Oh, by the way, let's back up. I used an FHA for this.
Wow.
And spent $8,000 for
So,
this
so,
property.
so you put 8,000. You probably put like 20,000, 30,000 worth of work,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
got $91,000 out of this in a year. You 3x your money in a year.
It was crazy. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, they're just like, don't go buy a boat. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
Wow.
So actually, I took that $91,000 and I ended up buying 3 more properties with
Wow.
that.
That's incredible.
And that was like, then the next one was another 2 family. And that's when I was like, I'm going to start investing in real estate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then it's a long story, but around 2021, I bought my white picket fence house in Concord, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to rent out this 2 family that I've been living in.
Yeah.
It was still cash flowing, but in the pandemic, the value of property skyrocketed. And this was a weird property because it was so old. And my friend who's a real estate agent, he's like, you should sell this now because you're going to get over asking. People are dropping inspections, and it might not be worth the same or easy enough to get rid of it, if the market settles down. So during the pandemic, I ended up selling it. And, I was reluctant to sell anything back at that point because I just loved the cash flow and I
Sure.
wanted to build a portfolio. But I sold it, and then I made another $181,000. That was after I lived there for basically free, pulled $91,000 out of it,
Wow.
HELOC, and then sold a couple of years later and made
Incredible.
another $181,000. So I preached that.
And so with $8,000, you made upwards of $280,000.
Yeah, I don't even. I just like with the snowball effect
Yeah.
that it created.
Totally.
Was more important than the actual.
Totally.
money value.
Yeah, and then it's like, and I preach this all the time. Like, cash flow is important. Cash flow is absolutely needed, right? But cash flow is purely a defensive mechanism. You make all the money on the forced appreciation, the market appreciation, the mortgage pay down, the depreciation, the tax benefits. Like, those are what really make you wealthy in real estate.
It's incredible with this form of asset class, all the different ways that it appreciates and creates value, like in every different
Totally.
avenue that you just mentioned.
So let's just fast forward. So you house hacked a couple times. You found your dream home, right? And then that's when you started attending meetups. That's when you and I met each other, and that's when you met Blue Canyon, right? And you started getting into other sort of asset classes, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was attending real estate meetups prior to COVID because I remember meeting John when he had first John Babachi, when he first started the whole Candor meetups. prior, and I just was, because I was just getting the taste for it, and I didn't know anyone else that was doing what I was doing, so I was trying to figure out through Bigger Pockets how I could get involved and who I could meet up. So he had just created those, so I just started dipping in, and then COVID happened, kind of everything wiped out for a while, and then and then was launching my own thing, and then got back into the networking thing after that, much heavier. And then, yes, that's when I started my other companies, Blue Canyon being one of them.
Yeah, that's when I met you, and that's when you really kind of leaned more into less your own construction company and more kind of value add multifamily.
Yeah.
Like, what was the first deal you did together with Blue Canyon?
First deal was a 6-family in Air, Mass.
Okay.
And I think actually John partnered with us on that because we needed help getting started at that time.
So was John your mentor in a sense?
In a sense, I think he was even more, my partners are Matt and Ryan. I think he was more their mentor, but I always looked up to John because he was doing real big things real fast. And I was like, I love that. I love his aggressive attitude and how successful he was in the multifamily world. So yeah, but at the same time, like, we were so new and getting started, we partnered with him and he helped us get involved. And a couple of years later, he ended up exiting that project and made money, and we stayed in it. But that was a 6-family in Air, and we actually just recently, last year, I should say, a month ago, just 1031 that into a much larger portfolio.
That's incredible. I think you took a smart approach with, you got into this new asset class, and rather than just going into it blind, you partnered with somebody who knew more than you to ensure a safe landing.
Yeah.
Right. To reduce your risk. Very, very smart there. Right. And then the really cool thing was, once, it was a value add property, I assume. Right. So once you completed your value add plan, the value plateaued. There's really no more value to suck out. You took the smart plan. You decided to 1031 it into a larger property. Right. So tell our audience, what is a 1031 for one? And then what property did you end up transitioning that into?
Yeah, so a 1031 exchange is just a tax strategy. Basically, you're kicking the can down the road. You don't have to pay the capital gains tax on the sale of that property. Basically, it's rolled into whatever other property you purchase afterwards. I'm not by any means a tax expert, and I really rely on my partners and our CPAs and accountants for that stuff. But it's a great strategy. I had actually 1031 that first property that I talked about earlier, my 2-family. That was the first time I ever did it.
So when you sold that 2-family, you said I made $180K. What did you say? You transitioned that into another property?
Yeah.
Oh, what property?
God, I don't even remember fully. I'd have to think about that. But there's a little nuance there. Because I lived in one of the units, I couldn't do the 10.
Half of it was tax free.
But half of it was tax free.
Yeah.
I took that. So it was a little bit of a complicated thing. But like right off the bat, I was doing any strategy I could take to save money.
That's cool.
And off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think maybe a 6-family Leominster is where I 1031 part of that.
Yeah.
But back to what we were talking about, you got to get me back on track here. I told you about my tangents and stuff. So 1031 is huge.
Yeah, so you 1031, I think, something in the Millis, right? You that property in there, you 1031 at 20
Two of them. So shortly after we bought the 6-family, there was another 5-family from the same owner that we ended up buying. So we ran and operated those around the same time for a few years, and we 1031. We sold and 1031 exchanged both of those literally at the same time. Those 2 properties into this one property in Millis, which is a lot.
That sounds super complicated to be able to time 2 1031s into buying a property. Like, so give our audience a little taste on how you would do that from a deal structure perspective, because it's honestly easier than people think it is.
Yeah, all of real estate is easier than people think it is, but most people associate real estate with just buying their white picket fence house. It's the largest purchase. They're coming up with a lot of money. It's going to be a big thing. But that's like, we don't think about real estate like 99% of most people do.
Totally.
When you start to think about real estate as a business, it's actually like I'm by no means a genius. It's a really easy business to operate. There's just a lot of zeros involved, so you have to be comfortable with that. But after you do a couple, you get comfortable and you see how smooth it is. You build a team. You have the right team of attorneys and lenders, you name it, insurance companies. So the process for that wasn't that complicated, but I can't take credit for it. My partner Matt did a lot of that back end stuff, and that's his expertise. But yeah, to sell 2 properties and get them under contract and basically around the same time, there's also a holding period where you can identify other properties you want that 1031 exchange into. And so realistically, on a normal basis, you'd be rolling one property into another, and there's a time period, and they let you do that. And that's to help. Like, this country needs housing. They have these incentives for a reason. So ours was really tight, a little bit more complicated than the traditional thing, but it all worked out really well, and the timing was perfect. And I'm very thankful that it worked out, but it's a little bit of luck and a lot of strategy.
One strategy I really like to utilize when it comes to 1031ing is approaching the owner and approaching them, and say something like, you're obviously a sophisticated investor. You obviously probably want to 1031 this property into another property. So why don't we give you time? Why don't we allow you time so you're not under pressure, so you can 1031 comfortably, right? So then we lock up their property with a long closing, allowing us the time needed to 1031 as many properties we need into that property.
Great idea.
Right? So, it doesn't sound like you took that approach, but that's an approach that I typically do when I 1031, just because, to your point, once it sells, you're under a time clock, right? So if you can kind of put the pieces in place that everything aligns before it sells, it kind of reduces the stress.
Yeah. And then also it's worth attempting and trying. And, if for some reason it doesn't work out time-wise and you run out of time, whatever, then you end up just paying the taxes on it now, and you're not, losing money or anything.
Totally.
You can still make deals happen, but it was worth trying. And like, there's a long enough time period, they allow you, that chances are very good that it's going to work out. And I like what you're saying about slowing the process down. Like, a lot of times, like, when you're in our level of real estate stuff, everyone's like, oh, quick closes, try to make it sound as most advantageous to the seller. Like, yeah, you can sell your property in 10 days, no problem, cash, this and that. But like, a lot of times there's not a rush for people to get out. They need time to sort themselves out, where they're going next with their money, their tenants or their personal property, or they have an aging parent, or however they're purchasing these properties. But I like the idea of slowing things down. There's less mistakes that happen when you give yourself more time.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it all comes down to the fact that to make a deal happen, you really have to create a win-win, right? So you really have to understand what the other side wants and kind of create the deal where the other side gets what they want and you get what you want.
Yeah. And usually it is a win-win.
Exactly.
Usually it is, and that's why it's a beautiful
thing. So John, you're a person that I think of that really has done very well at partnerships and really segmenting strengths and mitigating weaknesses, because I think you have 3 partners and each has their specific lane and their specific role. So tell me, how did you really set up your partnership originally, and kind of what do you guys do now, and what are some best practices you recommend for our audience on how they could have a successful partnership?
Yeah, great question. I think because I had already started a business and was operating that pretty smoothly, when I had met my partners, first things first is we identified each other because we all had a common goal, and that brought us together.
Which was?
Large multifamily investing. We weren't large at that point, but we knew we wanted to get into large multifamily investing. And we each had our own little portfolio at the time, and we started a mastermind group just to talk to somebody about real estate. We loved it so much. I'd be talking to my buddies on the golf course, and they're like, John, this isn't a friggin' real estate seminar. You got to leave us alone. Like, that's not our passion. So when I found these guys, and they're like, yeah, let's just get together and talk about real estate, our highs, our lows, what we're doing, what our goals are. And then after about 6 months to a year, that I realized, I'm like, we should just start a business. We each bring our own strengths to this business that I think would complement each other well and allow us to be successful. And so I remember sitting down at dinner with these guys, and I literally slid across the table a Venn diagram, or whatever, a tri diagram, because there's 3 of us. And I said, okay, here's Ryan. He's an expert at acquisitions. He's off market marketing, finds deals. Here's Matt. He's an expert at back end asset management and running the numbers. And then I had the construction expertise, so I was like construction management, and between the 3 of us, that covered the majority of what was needed in this industry. And so we're like, laughed at it a little bit. I still have that piece of paper. I actually found it and framed it.
Wow.
But that was years ago.
The founding of Blue Canyon.
Yeah, and I think I named it like Powerhouse Properties LLC, and I just made up something, because I'm like, those guys, Ryan and Matt, are insanely smart. Like, Matt's an engineer. I think he does like government contracts and like builds drones and stuff. And then Ryan's a CPA, so he's insanely good with the numbers. So I found that to be a good partnership because they covered the bases that I didn't. I'm in the back of a napkin type of math guy. I'm like, the numbers crunch out and it's simple, and I look at everything very high level, but they drill into the details, and that was very complimentary to me and very helpful to have as partners. So we cover those bases, and I push them to go a little bit outside of their, risk, their risk box and stuff. So I push them, and they control the situation by understanding the numbers. So it's a great team, and so we've done well to this point. But to be honest with you, and to be honest with our audiences, we have all had other companies and other W-2 jobs that we've been running alongside this company up until really this year, and we're still operating that way. But we've acquired investors and so much property, and we're managing a lot of things, and we're really trying to make that our full-time business, and we're figuring that out and putting the plan in place this year to make that a possibility. And I think it was always like a side hustle or whatever, but it's so powerful and very lucrative, and we've been so successful to this point that we really want to just be able to focus on it full time.
So a couple points. Have you read that book Traction? Right.
Somebody gave me that book. Some marketing woman gave me that book.
It's a really good book. And then they talk about the visionary and they talk about the integrator. The integrator are the people that get it done, right? And the visionary are the ones that come up with the business plan, kind of oversee the project from a 10,000 point perspective. And it sounds like you found a good partnership where it sounds like Matt and Ryan are somewhat of integrators, and you're very much kind of the visionary.
No, I can't take credit, because actually Matt has presented some big high level visions, and I'm really impressed that he thinks that way, and he's thinking even bigger than I am, which I love. So we all do a lot of envisioning, and we're sadly, I'm still very much an integrator. So when it comes to the construction and the flipping and the development, I'm still boots on the ground dealing with that. So not as much, I can't take credit for that, but in the beginning I was kind of pushing, for example, we got into Springfield, Mass, which was not a comfort zone. It was a 20 unit building. Springfield's not the nicest city, but I was like, guys, this is a great deal. And I eventually got Matt and Ryan on board, and we were very successful in how we took that property and added value and still own it today. But that was when I was like, there's three of us. We're young, we're hungry, we're all very good at what we do, and we should not be concentrating on these little six families. We should be scooping up larger portfolios. It's three full grown men. Alone, I can operate small multifamilies. I don't need a team. We should be doing bigger things because we have the capabilities.
Absolutely.
So that's what I want to push for, and that's what I've been pushing for. And they since got the taste in their mouth, and they're going.
I can tell you, I was at that same crossroad that you guys are. It sounds like you guys are at, where you have a strong, easy W-2, consistent income, trading time for money, and you have the pull, the allure of this other side hustle that's growing and exponentially growing and is growing into something more beautiful than you ever imagined. And you're asking yourself, should I lean in there and drop this, or should I keep this sort of, a dangle, right? And, I don't know.
Safety net.
Yeah, really. Safety net, right?
Dangle's a funny word, but W-2 jobs just here.
What I can tell you is when you actually take the leap into the unknown, something beautiful happens, right? And I can tell you what, you'll have more opportunity than you can even manage if you take the leap. I can guarantee that you guys are very talented investors. You guys have had multiple successful projects, and in real estate, there's a plethora of opportunity. The only thing you have to do is grab it.
Yeah, and by focusing 100% of our attention, it would just allow us to scale so much faster and smoother. So we're right there. I've already taken the leap. Ryan, who I'm super proud of, last year took the leap. He hasn't had a W-2 job, and he started a wholesaling wing off of Blue Canyon, which produced enough income for him to live very comfortably. I mean, he's always traveling the world. He's right now.
Yeah, he travels the world more than anybody I know.
But I'm so proud of him for rolling the dice and taking that risk, and it becoming a successful venture. And myself, I'm still running my development company on the side, which is very lucrative. And Matt is just getting a little bit more comfortable because he's the most conservative on the team, and he just needs to. We need to produce a little bit more regular income for him to leave his W-2 job, and that's right around the corner. So I think this is gonna be fun, and I'm excited, and I can't wait till we can all pour our energy into much larger projects.
Blue Canyon.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see its growth.
Yeah, thank you.
So let me ask you this, John. What is next for John Marchese? You obviously achieved a lot. I think you have a yacht at this point, so you're
Yeah, I
clear.
have a small sailboat.
No, you have a yacht. You're clearly successful, right? So, what's next for John? Right?
Yeah, so great question. I feel like I'm at a precipice. I'm about to venture into large redevelopment projects. Like I have the construction experience, which we've talked about, um, and I have the confidence, and I have the drive, and I want the challenge. Like I'm very comfortable right now. What I do, like I just did a new construction for Marchese Development, knockdown new construction in Lexington.
Okay.
It's on the market right now. This was a house. You knock it down, you build a brand new construction house.
Okay.
I guess you consider it a luxury home because it's worth $2.6 million right now.
Okay.
on the
Wow.
market. So that was my first knockdown. I didn't start small. I went right to what I know. Lexington's a very challenging market, but it's a lucrative market, and I'm very good at what I do. And I say that with confidence because it's true. But the single family is just another. It's another day job. Like you have to do a lot of them. It's like a flip,
Yeah.
but a glorified flip. You have to
Totally.
do a lot of them, and I can do them pretty well now. But I want to do larger redevelopment. I want to be a large scale developer. I want to build large apartment buildings. I like the idea of residential. And right now I'm trying to redevelop a 70,000 square foot school into a 46 unit apartment building. I've been working
Wow.
on this behind the scenes for over a year now.
I've been hearing about this behind the scenes for a very long
Yeah.
time.
The problem with the larger development stuff, you're on another level.
Oh.
You're producing a lot of housing, and it takes a lot of planning with the towns and
A
municipalities.
lot
to
of
get
time.
this stuff.
A lot of time. A lot of soft costs.
Big time. Oh,
Right?
God, yeah.
You know, you're probably how much are you probably into this already? And any sure thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, out of pocket, that's not even a lot. It probably around 50 grand. But
Yeah, I mean
that's rolling the dice.
Yeah,
I don't
of
even,
course.
you know what I mean?
But to many of our audience, that is a lot of money. You're playing
sure.
your big boys, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a down payment for a house hack, right? But to your point, with bigger risks comes bigger rewards.
Oh yeah. There's
Right?
a lot more zeros when it comes to this sort of thing.
Totally.
And you're forcing the appreciation by taking a dilapidated building and, completely redeveloping it into an entirely new
Yep.
purpose, which is residential, which I think is a safe, place to be. With residential, people are always going to need housing.
Absolutely.
These towns, these cities, this entire state, this entire country needs housing. So
Yep.
that's my aim. And my aim with this project specifically is to then keep the project, to not sell it off as condos, not sell it as an apartment building, to keep it as the flagship in my personal portfolio.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm just going to burr it, like do the burr strategy, so
Do
that I
it.
pull
You want-
money
yeah.
out and have money to keep going
So-
forwards after that.
So I mean, I think you bring up a really solid point where it's like, when it comes to building wealth in real estate, it all comes down to holding the asset, right? Like ultimately, you could sell the asset and you can get a quick buck, right? But the real wealth comes from holding on to the asset, letting it ferment like a nice wine, right? And then at the end, it turns into this beautiful, beautiful asset you never imagined it could be.
Yeah, and talking about financial freedom and all that, like this one project will achieve that for me. This one will be the catalyst for that. Like the cash flow on this alone, I would not have to work another day
Yeah.
in my life if I didn't want to. But that's not the intention here. That's to be the new safety net, and now
Totally.
concentrate on larger scale
Yeah.
development. So I'll have this one under my belt, the confidence, the ability, all the connections that I've made, even to this point on it, has made me so comfortable in pursuing these larger projects. And it's like, it's so challenging, but I love the challenge. And like flipping and single family construction, it has its own challenges, but
Yep.
it's not alluring to me. I like the challenge of large development. You're involved with like cities and towns and senators and all these politicians and like utility companies. And it's like, wow, you become a very important person in the community because you're providing so much for the
So much value.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that. And people are reaching out and like, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're so thankful that you're taking this project and taking this blight part of town
Totally.
and bringing it up and up and up, and then driving economic development for the businesses in town itself. It's like incredible.
Once you achieve financial freedom, I can tell you it gets boring, right? And it all comes down to having impact and having fun, right? Like, because ultimately it sounds like you really get enjoyment from having impact and doing what you love. So to wrap this up, John, give our audience 3 pieces of advice you would give to your younger self to guarantee success today.
Yeah. So one, invest in yourself. Like these are pretty standard. Like guys like myself and Andrew know about this because we're associated with people that educate on this. But one is invest in yourself. So the first investment, before I even invested in that property, I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books, I was self-educating. No one taught me about real estate. I taught myself the hard way. So invest in yourself, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be real estate, whatever your passion is. Invest in it, invest in yourself. The more knowledge you have, the more confidence you have to move forwards and get going. So invest in yourself. And then another simple one that I love is you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I didn't learn this until like maybe 5 years ago. But I think this principle is so important, and that is basically think of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yep.
And you are the sum of that. So if you have people that are extraordinary mentors to you, millionaires, successful in whatever they do, and then you have shit bum people that are dragging you down,
Absolutely.
or like addicts, or like just sucking the life out of you, you're somewhere in between that. So you want to make sure the 5 people that you spend the most time with are people that, you know, or ideally like doing what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Or somewhere in the mix, because you have your personal friends, but just make sure
of course
you understand that.
Yeah, but you're absolutely the 5 people you associate yourself with. And ultimately, it all doesn't have to come down to making money. Maybe you want to associate yourself with an amazing father. Maybe you want to associate yourself with, you know, somebody who's extremely fit, right? If you're trying to be very fit, you want to surround yourself around people who are top athletes, right? But ultimately, I 100% agree with that. You are absolutely the average of the 5 people you associate yourself with. And, you know, it's very important to be intentional about that, right? And was that number 2?
That was number 2. So
number 3.
What advice would I would give? I actually have to think about this, but at this point, it's just like find what you love and what your passion is. And I'm talking like to everyone here, people that are like in high school or coming out of college or before college. Like you don't have to take the straightforward path, go to college, get the job. There's so much opportunity out there and things that you can provide value to the world, and that value, you want to be passionate about it and you want it to add value, and that equals income, and it's going to be much higher income and not feel like a job when you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
So the sooner you can find that, and don't put pressure on yourself, but just be open to it, be grateful, like, you know, have the manifestation, it will come to you, but be open to that and find it.
Today's a special day.
Is it now?
It's a release. It's a huge release, right? It's actually the release of my addition to business cards. So I actually want to bring you a copy.
No kidding. Let's see these.
Oh, so here we go. This is it right here. You know, it talks a little bit about me. So I'll present it with you. You get the first copy.
Very cool. Holy cow.
I put a lot of money into that, my friend.
No kidding. 80 million assets under management, 25 million capital raised, 500 plus units owned and managed. That's impressive, dude.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
For all like the gamers out there, I love this.
I'm a gamer. What can I say?
Yeah, QR codes. You gotta throw QR codes on everything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is. You have a little less gray in your beard, I think.
I gotta show that experience. I gotta show the. All right, so for our audience, if they want to learn more about you, connect with you, get involved in your developments, maybe get involved in your project with Blue Canyon. Where can they learn more about you, and where can they connect with you?
Yeah. Obviously, Instagram, Blue Canyon Equity Partners, Marchese Development, Instagram, and then our websites, marchesedevelopment.com and bluecanyonep.com. And through there, you can connect with myself and my partners, and we're totally open and love talking real estate or anything with you guys. Any questions, any way we can help out or get you involved, we're interested for sure. So how's it feel to be ripped?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because yesterday I actually went for my DEXA scan. You know what DEXA scan is?
I don't. Actually, you got to done that.
Okay, now. So that's like a body fat scan, right? And my body fat scan actually came back at 15.9%, which isn't bad, right? But I was looking through the DEXA scan, and I realized that my head had 22% body fat.
How is that the case?
I am literally Stewie. I have a giant freaking head, right? And the worst part about it is, how can I work on my head? What workout do I do to get this 22% down?
Yeah, and you shaved your head and everything.
I know.
I don't know.
I know.
Too many brain cells firing off at any given time.
No, actually, the doctor told me that brain is actually fat. right? So it essentially means I have a big brain. So the simple solution is I clearly have to just get dumber. That's obviously the solution.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that way. Just maybe take more vacations and slow your mind down when you can. But no, seriously, like I haven't seen you since you've gotten so in shape. But like, what happened? Like, what got you involved in that? Why did you want to do that? And like, I'm jealous.
Oh, well, I was crushing every other aspect of my life, but when it came to fitness, I always failed time and time and time again. At a certain point, there was this coach that had this program, and he did this cohort of people a year ago, and in that cohort, 22 of the 24 people got six packs.
Oh shit!
Where I was like, oh crap! So that cohort came up to sign up again. It was very expensive. It was like $10,000. But I was like, I asked myself, would I pay $10,000 for a six pack? And the answer was yes. So I signed up for that course. It was an 11-month course. I hired a coach. I did everything he told me. I just followed what he told me from start to finish. My food, my diet, working out, cardio, everything. And then, I ended up going on stage and I lost 42 pounds.
Wow.
I got a six pack, and I'm actually doing another bodybuilding competition this year with the same program. So
that's like incredible. Like you don't realize how much 42 pounds is when you're carrying it around on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You go to pick up a 45.
Oh my God.
Plate.
Well, I was 218 to 175. What is that, like 30% of my mass or something like that? I don't know, something like that.
Incredible. So that's that 10 grand though. That's investing in yourself. That's exactly what I was just talking
Totally.
about.
You're absolutely right. It was the best money I've ever spent.
But let me ask you in a person though, because like I just downloaded the Better Me app and I was like, oh, I'm going to start working out. I got to do it. But like, were there days when you're just like, I don't want to do this, or like, I don't want to hear from my coach, or how did you stay with it? Like, how, seriously, because it's like, you made it sound easy, but
totally,
like, I know it's not. And there's days when you're just
totally.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is doing something like that cultivates such a level of discipline that you're a freaking sharp samurai sword at that point. Like ultimately, when you force yourself to run 90 minutes, but you have no inspiration to do it, or when you work out for 60 minutes to a really hard workout and you have zero desire to do it, that's when you push yourself to do amazing things in business and in life, right? So definitely push myself to do that, but ultimately what really helped me through it, I would definitely say, just imagine I was freaking Rocky at every freaking workout. I was on stage, raising my hand, cheering, because like that was the only thing that pushed me through it.
I love it. And I like that you take like your mentality towards business and then put that towards your personal well-being, fitness. Like that helps to have that drive and know you can't give up. No matter what, you just got to keep going. Yeah. So that's huge. That's great. I'm proud of you, dude. I'm impressed. Like that's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, I just want to thank John for coming on the Freedom Real Estate Podcast. Thank our audience for listening. Yes, definitely check us out next week. Bon voyage.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. This is fun.
Of course, of course.